If someone told me I'd be spending my entire morning being dragged around half of downtown Luxborn looking for furniture, I probably would have simply smiled at them. Then perhaps even given them a good friendly pat on the shoulder and wished them a nice day. Not that I find anything wrong with this at all. On the contrary, this is most definitely a nice change of pace after weeks of getting bogged down by several freelance gigs and shutting myself inside the apartment whenever I can. If only the weather would be a whole lot nicer. The kind with less sun and more clouds, perhaps?
Those are nice for taking photos in.
With the mid-morning sun slowly beating down on us as high noon approaches, I can see why Mrs. Stir Right skipped out on this trip. I was gonna say Miss
Stir. Mrs. Stir.
The bright sun is the whole thing. Oh.
The bright side is, the whole thing seems to have put Miss Wright in a less somber mood. After the fifth store, her pace is considerably livelier, her gestures less guarded than the one she displayed at the mansion earlier. The presence of another person might have helped as well. Although Miss McCulloch seems less predisposed to small talk, referring to keep herself most of the time and let Miss Wright lead us wherever. Last episode, Luke just called her an Irish person, but I'm pretty sure her name's Scottish, so I'm wondering if that's just like, if she's actually Irish, or if that's actually feeding into the fact that the Wrights constantly get everything wrong about people's names and stuff and other things. Like they call her Marianne rather than Marianne.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And Isabella rather than Isabel. Actually, I don't remember now which was it.
Yeah, which one's right? I think it's Isabella.
I'm terrible.
He called her a giant also.
Yeah, an Irish giant.
Yeah.
Did I read this already? Yes, I did. She did acknowledge me with a side nod when we were introduced earlier. That didn't make standing outside the store altogether less awkward while we wait for our client to finish her inquiry inside.
They didn't go in.
I think they're outside of the sixth store.
So, interior design, huh?
Yeah, I'm curious how these two will get along. I mean, he takes photos and she designs the things that he'll end up taking photos of.
Right, I was gonna say I'm surprised they wouldn't have come into contact with another.
Especially if she's supposedly of high fame and esteem. Though I don't know, is he kind of new to this? I don't know.
I don't think so.
Well, I mean, like
the freelance for that.
Well, like for luxury living, I don't know. She cast me a sidelong glance before returning to her notes again, her pen scratching faintly against the paper in quick successive strokes. There goes that. Did I say I'm not any good at starting or keeping conversations going? Didn't I? She doesn't look back up again, and I take that as my cue to stop any attempt of striking a dialogue with her and keep myself occupied with some other thing. Wow. Except what we have here is just Luxburn and its busy streets, people going about their day like normal, cars moving in and out of sight, heading to who knows where. Nothing remarkable, really. The ease with which a person can fade into the background here is reflective of the kind of city Luxburn will always be, but the humdrum's one thing I learned to live with. Needless to say, it doesn't usually stay that way. There are times when it would have come alive, make itself known, and reassert itself back to the world. However, those moments are few and far in between. Then again, with what graces the news channels lately, I'm starting to think it's gonna happen sooner or later. Can't say I'm looking forward to what it'll bring. Are they talking about, like, how Rose is gonna die or something?
I have no idea.
No, she's already dead.
Yeah, she already died.
Never mind. I don't know.
Luxury living, is it?
Yes.
Her voice effectively cuts through my thoughts just as I count the 13 passerby wearing a hat today. Beside me, I can hear the faint rustling of paper and the clicking of her pen as she stashes them back into her bag.
Excuse me, what?
She answered your question.
The magazine you're working for. It's luxury living, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. You've been featured by them before, I take it?
A few years back, yes, for just some issues. My designs still appear from time to time, though not as frequent as before. Gotta have room for new talents, right?
It may not show in her face, but the pride is evident in her voice.
Good folks, the people running the publication. Tell me, is DK still on the editorial team?
I wouldn't know. I've only started taking jobs from them this year. Freelancer, you know.
Good man, that guy. Anyone in our field should meet him. He had a lot of things to say about art, all of them relevant. Learned a lot from him, actually, even if we both came from two different fields. I hope he's in a good place. I haven't talked to him in a while. Anyway, your portfolio must have been good if they gave you the job. They don't easily assign big features to freelancers like this.
I wouldn't say I am, but experienced, you know? The more you practice it, the more you learn the tricks of the trade. That kind of stuff.
I know what you mean. Still, you've got to keep up with the competition. Each year, a new talent emerges, and, well, you never know. Clients can be a bit fickle-minded with their choices, believe me. Speaking of, do you think you'd be up for a new client after this?
Maybe.
You're like, yes.
I think so. Depends on how big the project is.
She reaches into her bag again. This time to pull out a business card, which she hands over to me. Marianne McCulloch. Trelly Rose Designs, interior designer. McCulloch@xmail.com.
Look at that phone number.
445387071836. I'm not familiar with British telephone numbers, but I have friends that can tell me if that's good format.
When you're free, send your portfolio to Chris. He's my assistant. He's been looking for a decent photographer to help with updating the studio's portfolio. Nothing urgent, but the sooner the better.
Not sure if I'll have the time to squeeze this in. But, alright, I'll give it a go once.
Marianne, could you look this over for me?
At that very moment, Miss Wright emerges from the store. When I look back to Miss McCulloch, her mask of professionalism has returned to her. Or at least, that is what it is trying to be. There's a different light in her eyes as she faces her, a flicker of familiarity and recognition. I'd say it's fondness, but that would be too presumptuous. Whatever it is doesn't last and is briskly swept under the firm tone her voice assumes.
Definitely. Is there a problem?
They said they don't have the colors you suggested. Do you think we can change it around for a bit? It might take a while if we insist what we want, and you know I'd rather not worry about this later.
I think it'd be better if I handle this one myself. Excuse me.
She walks into the shop without another word, leaving the two of us standing outside. As soon as she's out of earshot, however, Miss Wright lets out a giggle and swipes the business card cleanly off my hand. She smiles, bemused little things spreading across her face, and waves the card in front of me. I wish she'll do that more often, the smiling thing. It suits her more than the other one she frequently shows to the media.
I look away, and the next thing I know, you're picking up women. On the streets, while the sun is high, no less. I'm not sure if I should be appalled or amazed. Whatever happened to the Zach I met a day ago? About as tall as you. Photographer. Quite the gentleman. To tell you the truth, I'm a bit disappointed he's gone.
It ain't like that, Miss Wright. And I'm sure Miss McCullough's not the kind of woman to let herself be picked up by strangers, let alone people she barely knows.
Oh, shush. Let me have my fun. And didn't I say you can call me Hannah? This right after you introduced yourself as my friend in front of my husband. I do believe this isn't how friends address each other. Too formal, don't you think?
She gives the card back to me. Nevertheless, with it, her mood fades into a more pensive one. An odd look settles on her face, yearning, a bit wistful, as she looks back towards the shop's window display window. I can read. There's nothing remotely interesting in it for me when I follow her line of sight, though. A few trinkets here and there, a fur rug, a sofa, a wooden side table, and a lamp, all tastefully picked and arranged to resemble a typical antique living room. On second thought, it does look comfortable. But why they add a crib beside it baffles me. Unless, of course, the people they're hoping to market are those who already have children, or about to have one, then maybe it is fitting. Peculiar choice of decorations aside, it does make for a nice icebreaker, if not on the same level of weird and completely out of the blue. It's still leagues better than the awkward silence, which is definitely too out of character for a personality like Miss Rahana's. Do you think a crib would make a good gift? That would just get her all sad and depressed.
But maybe then they would bond.
I think that one looks cute.
So, because she wants kids and Luke doesn't. So maybe if she's like, do you think a crib would make a good gift? She'd be like, oh, I don't know. And then they would bond.
A good gift for who?
I don't know. It's a terrible question.
I think it's a terrible question in general to ask a couple, is like to be prodding them about, kids and babies and stuff.
I don't know what he's referring to with the I think that one looks cute. I feel like the reason she looks sad is because she's looking at the crib, though.
I'm gonna go BFF status in just 2 days. Ask about the crib.
I don't know.
Well, I think this one looks cute. I think it's just gonna be uninteresting.
Mm-hmm. Or it'll actually be something ugly, and then she'll be like, "Oh, you have terrible taste, ha ha ha."
Well, this one's just. This is, I think, is going to result in just like, I'm sad, and then it's like, ha 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 ha, laugh, and then she's just gonna go back to being sad again.
Right, I did the top just because it's different.
It'll be more interesting too. If completely inappropriate to ask, it'll be more interesting. Do you think a crib would make a good gift?
My sister just had a baby,
Good way to bring it up. She tears her attention away from the window and looks at me with an incredulous expression on her face. Sorry, I just looked at her face.
Yeah.
Like, I just asked her to drive off a cliff. She relaxes eventually, but I can't get that image of her like that off my head. I can't read looking at her face like that.
I hope I didn't say anything to offend.
Oh, what brought this on?
Nothing. It's just a thought. She gave birth a few weeks ago.
I suppose a congratulations is in order then.
Thanks. I'll let her know. Do you think a crib would make a good gift?
I'm sure she'd love that if she doesn't have one yet. Otherwise, maybe clothes. Or things she can use to care for the baby.
No kidding.
You realize I'm the last person you should be asking about this, yes?
Oh, it's her first baby, don't you worry. I haven't bought a gift yet since I'm kinda new to this too, The whole being an uncle thing. For a long time, it's just been me, sis, and my grandparents. Now there's a little person who came into this world as part of the family. Who'd have thought, huh?
Please don't tell me you're jealous.
Oh, of course not. But I gotta admit that the very idea takes a lot of getting used to, and scary stuff like what if I drop her or end up teaching her something bad, or I just can't stop making her cry, or...
Oh, Zach. Something warm presses against my arm, gentle as it can be, which stops the rest of my words from coming out. Her hand, I realized belatedly. When I look at her, there's nothing but warmth in her smile. She's been doing that a lot in the past few hours, and I can't help but return it to her.
Zach, sweetie, stop. You're panicking. It's going to be fine.
I don't know, Hannah. Maybe I'm not cut out to be a good uncle.
Don't be silly. You'll probably be the best one there is. Might even make a good father when the time comes. Whoever you choose to be with will be lucky to have someone like you, I'm sure.
At this, her expression softens, sadness flitting into her eyes for a little while before she looks away.
I'm the one who's worried if I'll ever make a good mother. Luke doesn't seem to even want one of our own. How pitiful is that? 7 years and we're still at this point. I don't even know what to call it anymore. Now I'm carrying this other life with me while the father doesn't want anything to do with it.
She's pregnant?
Is she actually admitting it now?
I think so.
Because you guessed that long ago. With her vomiting in the toilet.
That hasn't happened yet,
What am I
though.
going to do, Zach? Because right now I'm absolutely at a loss.
Oh, yeah, that was at their old apartment, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Ah.
Oh.
Nice.
A beat.
Oh.
The realization strikes me like a ton of bricks suddenly bearing down on me. More than astonishment must have shown on my face because Hannah lets out a chuckle. The slump on her shoulders disappears altogether underneath her mirth.
Don't look so surprised, dearie. Tied the knot 7 years ago, remember? Don't you think it's bound to happen?
She branches her hand in front of me, the unassuming silver band on her finger glinting against the late morning sunlight for a second. She eyes it lovingly, almost tenderly, despite the trace of sadness in her voice.
It's a very modest ring for what I would expect from them.
Mm-hmm. For all I know, there's an entire story there. I'd ask, but that would be too inappropriate, even for friends. It's not my place to meddle to begin with.
Or at least that's what they've been saying early on. My whole social circle would be saying it's a long time coming.
But the kid is something you want, right? Because if it ain't, then that's a whole other problem.
Of course. I wouldn't deny I've been hoping to have him or her for a long time now. But then, now that we're here, all of a sudden, there are a whole lot of other things to be worried about. Business, a new home, public image, my own husband, and I don't know. I didn't really have anyone for a role model.
This guitar is really
Practically
nice.
grew up with nursemaids pampering me every step of the way. What if it happens to this baby as well?
I didn't... She talked over you. I didn't hear
I'm
you.
sorry. No, I said the guitar was really nice, and
Oh.
the music was very...
Mm-hmm.
It's done now, but...
Oh, I can already see how this will end.
Oh, and how's that?
Huh. I guess it's not just my sister.
What?
You and my sister. I mean, you're both having jitters or something like that. That's what it's called, right? First baby jitters? Mind you, she was really convinced she'd do everything wrong then. He even called me in the middle of the night. Asked to switch places the day she found out she's carrying a new member of the family. Never mind how utterly impossible her request is.
I'm quite sure I haven't done anything of that sort yet.
Oh, you don't know that? My brother-in-law has been telling me things 5 weeks into my sister's pregnancy. Since she's one cranky pregnant lady. Man, good thing I found a place for myself years before that bundle of joy arrived, huh?
It can't be that awful.
Who knows? I think we'd better leave it for Mr. Right to decide, yeah?
Provided he comes around. He just sounds so repulsed every time the idea is brought up.
And there's the guitar. I've heard this track before.
I know, I just like it.
We'll have to go through the soundtrack.
It just sounds
eventually.
like something that would be on, like... I don't know.
So, Dad's a Sunday morning jazz
That's what
station.
I was thinking, like jazz brunch.
This is Jazz Brunch on NPR with a guitar track.
Then maybe you should say it to his face. No mincing of words or beating around the bushes.
And if he says no?
You haven't even told him yet. Besides, that's his kid. Don't people usually say fatherhood changes men? I wouldn't call myself a living testament, of course, but there ought to be something that will hit him in that idea alone.
A wrecking ball would be nice.
Laughter escapes me before I can stop it, and for a moment I thought I have done something wrong when she doesn't join in. He's still her husband, no matter what jests or complaints she hurls about him behind the media's eyes or in the presence of people she trusts. But when she does, her chuckle, a small hesitant sound at first, I find the rest of my unease slipping away.
Well, whatever it is, my point is, you've got no idea what will happen. In the same way, you don't know if you'll be a good mom. Trust me, my sister's been there. It's perfectly normal.
We still haven't shown her the photos yet.
I know.
If, my opinion matters, though,
A long second of indecision goes by. I can feel her eyes, filled with nothing but curiosity, boring into me while she waits for the rest. Just a simple sentiment, but one thing I think she needs to hear for all the doubts she's unwittingly places on herself. I'm just not sure if it should come from me. I'll be damned.
I think you'll be a great mother, Hana.
If she has an answer to that, I don't get to hear it, nor does she get to say it. As soon as it's out of my mouth, the bell hanging over the antique store door chimes and comes out. Miss McCulloch. For a moment, for more than one reason, I have never been so relieved our talk got interrupted.
Everything's been taken care of for tomorrow, Mrs. Wright. We'll have everything you requested delivered early. I've left them instructions, but I may have to visit again right before your housewarming party to check for a few things.
I've left them instructions.
I hope that's acceptable to you.
Acceptable to you?
Move in, Marianne. This is a little early to say, but you did marvelous work with the mansion. I can't wait to see all of it come together tomorrow.
I'm only doing my job, ma'am. Needless to say, it's always a pleasure to hear a client is satisfied with my work.
Nonsense! You have every reason to be proud. I know you've already established your name here, but I'll still make sure word gets out, of course. I think I've got a few friends who might be interested in decorating their homes. I'll see if I can introduce you to them tomorrow.
I really don't want to impose, Mrs. Wright. There's still a lot to be done, and I'd rather be keeping an eye on it myself.
You know well enough I'll still do it. You too, Monsieur le Photographe. You better be the one taking the pictures for the event tomorrow, or I'll be very upset.
I blink at her, confused. Last I checked, I have nothing on my plate tomorrow. A couple of fleeting thoughts did cross my mind, like working on personal projects. But with the expectant expression on Hannah's face alone, I've wondered before how they got Isabella to sell them the mansion, with all the paperwork and the loops it has to go through. Well now, the how is already standing in front of me, and it's one giant ball of persuasion in human form. If I have any doubts how she got around life, all of them have been dispelled right this instant. Hannah hasn't said anything yet, but I already know what my answer will be.
What event?
Our housewarming party, dearie. I've already sent invites through your publisher. They should have informed you of it by now.
I may have probably missed it. I haven't gotten the chance to check my mailbox yet. Deadlines, real-life happenings, they can be pretty hectic. I'll try later, but they might have already assigned it to a different photographer if they haven't received my reply yet.
That's not a problem. Nothing a little call from me can't fix. I'll have them know I'm specifically requesting for your presence. It shouldn't be too hard. Just promise me you'll show up. I expect to see you both there. No excuses.
Good company, good music, good food. Of course I'll be there.
Lovely. I hope we have that settled then. I'd love to stay and chat, but unfortunately I have an appointment scheduled with the doctors after this. You two will have to excuse me.
Are you feeling fine, ma'am?
It's nothing big.
Ha. Ha. Ha.
We still haven't shown her the stupid photo.
I know! And my bike is at your house. There's a short while on which her hand faintly touches her stomach when she says this. Her smile as she does so, a tender thing in itself. She might never let it cross her mind, but motherhood would suit her. The kid is already loved even when he or she has yet to have a sense of the world. Candid moments like this, I wish I'd brought a camera for.
Sorry we had to cut this short. I'd love to have lunch with you two, but, well, you two know how it goes.
It's quite fine, Mrs. Wright. I need to get going as well.
Is it somewhere far from here? I can have my driver drop you off on the way.
Oh, don't bother.
No, please. There's no need for that, Mrs. Wright. It's just within the city.
I see. What about you, Zach? We did leave your push bike at the mansion. Don't worry, I'll have someone bring it to your home later.
Nah, I live within the city too. A few blocks from here, in fact. I only visited earlier because...
Finally.
The photos. Damn, I've completely forgotten about them. I haven't. My hand grazes the side of my pocket where I've kept them since this morning. And sure enough, they're still there, waiting for the whole world to see them.
Because? Zach, sweetie, you're zoning out.
Miss Hana, earlier, at the mansion.
That's why we came here.
It is why we came here. This is a horrible... Yeah. Should I still show her the photos? Ruin a nice moment. Isn't stress bad for the baby?
She's already stressed.
Yeah, okay.
Just
What's
add
what's more stress?
Just show it to her. That's why we came here. Never mind bull crap.
Show her the pictures.
I think it would be better if you take a look at these yourself.
Got an achievement.
Seeing is believing, right?
I'm just worried they'll see him and be like, oh, you're terrible at taking photos.
I reached into my pocket and pulled out the photos, handing everything to her. Recognition flickers across her eyes when she reaches for them, and I have to stamp down the tiny twinge of regret in my stomach for having the gall to show it to her. Only it cuts deeper the instant both her and Miss McCullough's expression changes, and it's not a good look. To say she's repulsed would be a total understatement. All this time, Hannah's been nothing but direct, saying what she feels, expressing what she wants. Away from the glamour, the camera lenses, she's a whole different person. But she goes through each of the pictures. I can't get an easy read on her.
Zach, dearie, what is this?
Your photos. The ones you requested copies of.
Not.
They came out that way, and I thought you should know.
Oh, I get it. You know, I've heard before that artists can be a bit weird. Have you ever gotten that kind of comment, Marianne?
Not in my line of work, I'm afraid. Or ever, Mrs. Wright. I'd rather keep my personal hobbies away from my actual work. Less stress that way.
Well, I suppose it just never crossed my mind that the saying applies to you as well, Zach. But talent's what's important, As long as you make good art, it doesn't matter.
Oh, no, that's... You see, when we had that photo shoot yesterday, there was something.
I wouldn't say I don't appreciate it. I did ask for copies, darling. But would it be possible for you to give me normal-looking ones? Preferably with my head intact. I admire the effort you took to edit this, though. It looks authentic. Frankly, if I show this to some other person, they'd probably believe those silly rumors about the mansion. Good publicity, but not the kind I'd want for my new home. So please.
She drops them back in my hands like they're very surfaced, burned hers.
If you could redo this, that would be wonderful. I'm positive you can do a better job than the one you just showed. Just try to keep the edits to a minimum,
Yeah. I can, sure.
You can take your time, of course. And speaking of time, I really must go.
She leaves so much without so much as a wave. I don't have to take a guess to know I've dismayed her, or in her words, weirded her out. Beside me, Miss McCulloch shakes her head. What are the odds I've also ruined my chances with the job she offered earlier? Very high, I'd say. Oh no. It's a foolish idea in the first place. Miss McCulloch departs shortly after Miss Wright has taken her leave, muttering something without getting a quick lunch before fetching Baruthiel from Chris. I don't know what or who a Baruthiel is. It must be important for her to be in this kind of hurry. And well, she doesn't seem too fond of small talk, something we can both agree on. Lunch sounds good, or walk around the city maybe? With the sun as high as it is now, nah. And after how things with Miss Hana went, I simply can't muster the appetite for anything at the moment. If I don't do anything with it now, I have this impression it will rear its ugly head again. And by then, things might be too late to fix. What other choice do I have? Ash? Rebecca? In all likelihood, all they'll give me is a pat in the back and a Z-Man, go get some sleep. You're at it again from Ash. I'd like to talk to Isabella, but I haven't seen her around since she showed up at my apartment 2 days ago. Weird.
She's dead.
There is one person, though.
Damn, I should have thought of that first.
As it turns out, I do have another choice. I'm not a religious person. I won't identify myself as such. Or rather, I can't. Sure, my grandparents did have to force me to go weekly. I'd happily join them. In fact, most of my childhood Sundays have been spent attending service. It's simply that as you get older, the more experiences you get, forming your own beliefs on things become easier, for the lack of a better word. And at one point, it just stopped. That kind of thing. Nevertheless, I hold no disdain for it. Sometimes it does help. When things are really, really bad, when the dreams won't stay where they should be. Talking does a bit. It's also a good thing Father Norman's... well, he's not completely the pious man you'd typically expect. My unlikely friendship only probably happened because he's the kind of guy who's cool with the young ones, as so he aptly puts. And he is surprisingly... it takes him easy to approach. It makes him easy to approach. Maybe he has something to say about the photos as well. Won't hurt since I've already gone ahead and went to Anselm. At daybreak, on my bike. At the very least, I know I won't get shouted at by whoever answers the door.
Unless someone does that inside a church. I highly doubt it.
Despite its age, the Luxburn Church is a thing of wonder in itself, with its high vaulted ceilings and intricate stained glass windows. I'm still really sad from earlier. One of the many gifts of the Ermengarde family donated to the community in its early days. So I heard from Rebecca. She mentioned this once, although most of it flew over my head then. At this time of day, the church is mostly empty, save for a few visitors and ushers shuffling about, some muttering their prayers under their breath. The scene of burning candles and incense permeate the air, giving the place a general feeling of reverence. Pretty welcoming all in all. Even so, I keep the noise my treads make to a minimum. Disturbing the quiet feels like a sin alone. An usher points me to a pew in front of the altar when asked where Father Norman prays. He mentioned something about the good priest not being in good health. Ever since he was asked by a couple to bless their new home before moving in.
We didn't pick that option, though.
Weren't given the option to do that.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, let's go do that. We didn't have any choice in them doing that.
I thought, like... Because I thought Isabella...
No, you're thinking of Isabella had the choice of either going to see Professor whatever.
Yeah, or this guy.
Or this guy. But Hannah and Luke earlier just like, oh, let's go and get the thing blessed. Like, we had no option in that. They said they're just going to go do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they just said, let's do that. So either way, and now he's gone and he's done that, and now oh boy.
He's probably dying from the chick, so he's going to be like, yeah, ghosts.
Yeah.
Demons.
Mm-hmm. This is the first time in days he's left his room. No surprise there with the weird heat lately. Even Rebecca caught something. I'm just... Having showed that, and then both of them just being meh, I hope that it at least will come back around to be like, oh, we're good, and you're a good person, and they like us. Because I'm really sad.
Nothing popped up about the relationship changing right after we did it. So.
You didn't?
No. It was just a story. Was added to the journal. Oh. I guess it did go down. We were doing so well.
I know.
He should have prefaced it before he showed.
Yeah.
It's not our fault.
He's not... Yeah. He's just bad with that sort of thing. I'm still really sad for him. No surprise, weird-headed, even Rebecca caught something. Yeah. Okay. Nervous little chap, the kid. Nevertheless, he leads me close to the foot of the dais with the reminder not to stay too long before walking off. Seconds later, Father shifts and stands. He doesn't seem to have noticed me, and I have to give him a little tap on the shoulder. When he looks, though, to say he's surprised is an understatement.
Stay away.
His voice comes out a whisper, almost inaudible in a hush, a quiet restraint, indifference to where we both are standing. But the tremor is there. He focuses on me with wide-eyed, bulging eyes. Copious amount of sweat appearing on his forehead despite the relative coolness of the place.
Father Norman?
Keep your distance.
Hey, it's me, Zach, remember?
Stay away, don't come near me.
It must be the fever talking, or whatever he caught. It has to be. I don't recall ever doing anything for him to drive me away like this. In all the years I've known him, he's been nothing but polite, nothing but accepting of people regardless of beliefs or status in life. For words akin to a threat to come out of him, it's simply beyond unimaginable.
Go back to where you came from. Leave.
Father, what did I do?
Leave now.
I extend a hand to his shoulder, meant to be reassuring, but he recoils, his ankle catching on the edge of the dais as he backs away. His shout when I attempt to reach out again echoes through the entire hall, catching the attention of the few people inside. I try to keep a level tone, but with these strangers' eyes trained on us, panic starts to weave its way into me.
Stay away, demon! Go back to the hell you came from!
Father, it's okay. I only came here for some pictures I thought looked odd. I figured you might know something.
From my pocket, I fish out the photos and try to hand it to him. Instead, he strikes my wrist, almost like an accusation, and sends the photographs fluttering uselessly to the floor. Helpless, I can only watch as he curls into himself on the ground, a sad blubbering mess, whimpering to himself. He tips his head forward and begins rocking, his hands clapped over his ears.
That accursed spirit, so full of anger and pain. All those horrible things I've seen. I can't sleep. I can't eat everywhere I look. Go away, go away. Go away. You're not supposed to be here. This is a house of God. Be gone, demon! Lord have mercy, God our Lord, King of ages, all-powerful and almighty, you who made everything and transform everything simply by your will.
A number of people have moved closer, mostly just to gawk. Thankfully, as if to save him from being an utter spectacle, 2 ushers come in, taking him away. One of them, the kid from earlier, shoots me an apologetic look. I can't even return it to him. Anxiety is a powerful thing, a firm little notion that clings, eats, and consumes you. I can still hear his prayers even as they drag him away.
May he keep at bay and vanquish every evil power, every poison or malice invoked against us by corrupt and envious people. Then under the protection of your authority may we sing in gratitude.
It rings, hums in me as I am left to pick up the pieces of this chaos. Back to square one we go. There is salvation in this. I hope we find it soon. Well, I didn't go as I expected at all. The moon is well into the night sky by the time I make it back home. My heavy treads and the sound of traffic outside echoing in my ears, filling the empty room with some semblance of life. Nana would scold me if she ever hears me walk like that, but after today, I can't really give a damn about everything. The mattress creaks under my weight as I unceremoniously flop down on it and find myself looking at the paper under my grip. As promised, Miss Wright had my bike delivered back to my apartment. Raise your glasses. Okay, that's the invitation. Be there, Hannah. Found it parked in the rack downstairs with an invitation and a note tacked to it, in fact. Be there, it said. If only it were that easy, but it'll give me a chance to talk to her. About that thing in their house. With a sigh, I let my hand fall to the side of the bed, along with the invitation. I'll think about it tomorrow when my head ain't muddled with thoughts of a headless woman and the haunting smiles of a ghost. Belatedly, it occurs to me I haven't eaten anything since I left this morning.
Wow.
And an empty gnawing ache makes itself known, but I can't bring myself to stand up. Today was a complete waste of time and frankly a disappointment. Yeah. I don't like this. The lack of certainty, the disquiet, the lack of stable ground to stand on, the part where I do not know what will come tomorrow. Ever since that damned letter, everything has been thrown out of the loop. I wish everything stayed the same. Routine would have been easier to make sense of than this. Closing my eyes, I'll let the noise from the streets below lull me to sleep. At the very least, that's the one thing that hasn't changed.